Hello, everyone, and good evening. Well, if you're on the other side of the planet, good morning and good afternoon. Yes. So this welcome to my alchemist build for 2025, where I show the world and possibly my future rivals in the game what my build is. Well, I'm not the very best alchemist out there, but I shall try my best to share what knowledge I have in English since there are information. There are actually videos about their are greater than alchemist class that has greater than me, but they're not exactly in English now. So I decided to make my own and also out of the request of a viewer, which I did not make until now. So enough with the intro. Let me just show you. As you can see here, not much change of my equipment. It's still heavy and one balance, one dang it, one frantic and one two guarding. Now, this is not my net ideal build actually. It was just what I was given and I am too lazy to grind for more. And so here this is the my offensive set of spells, and this is my supports, full support spells as I call them. Now, as for my offensive spells, right here, I use them in both PvP and solo hunting in daily quests or just plain hunting. Here, directional transformation because it has a shorter cooldown and I can spam it as any time as I like. Here where I put my shards in. Clean shot, increased damage ability monster by 30%, and depletion depletes the applies depletion to the enemy for 5 seconds. The pyromancy will of course burn the enemy for 3 seconds. Now the clean shot is for when I hunt mobs, elite mobs and stuff, and you can always switch it to here bombardment, the ability cooldown decreased by 1 second if you are going to engage in PvP, because the difference of cooldown I mean when you have a shorter cooldown you'll cast your spells more. Transformate transmutation circle is of course mandatory. You cannot go without as an alchemist. Here I am, the inscriber, cooldown by uh, 2 seconds. I do not use sign of power at all. I prefer cooldown, and this is just my opinion. Alright, I prefer cooldown. Nothing much has changed. Sign of paralysis applies to root to all enemies wounded, and sign of fear to all enemy fear all enemies to for 2 seconds. Now I'll explain the root before. Again, it places your enemy to where they are, but they will still be able to attack and oh sorry, cast spells that can be applied to mobs too. By the way, sign of fear makes them stun. Basically, it's like stun only they can move involuntarily. Sorry, I had to turn off the mic there. I was sneezing again for some reason. Okay, so they apply, but when you combine root and fear, root will put them in their place, and fear will make them unable to cast or attack you. Of course, you can change the chaos shard to where they are, but this is what I use in both PvP and mob hunting. Elixir of life, God, mandatory skills for all alchemists. This is toward immortality, increases the ability duration by 20%. Fast reflexes, applies haste and boost for 6 seconds. Spitfire extract applies burn to all enemies within 5 meters every 3 seconds. This is for both PvP and hunting if I feel really mad. Fast reflexes, great escape, or great chase, your choice. And increase ability duration 20%. You will want to make Elixir of Life last long, trust me. In any situation, it's very game changing. And I use this more often than not. Potion making, it can hurt and it can heal. It is an awesome skill for alchemists. Delayed fermentation, increase the existing time bottle by 1.5 times. Not every time that you can go to where you drop your bottle, so it's better to have them exist for a little while longer. Vigor charge, the character receives the haste for 3 seconds when using the bottle. It's good for chasing or escaping depending on the situation, but although I prefer to be fast than to be slow. And surprise battle applies burn and frostbite to all enemies within the area of effect, reduces number of vials created by one. Now, usually it's just when when you do not use surprise battle, it will come out when you cast it 3, but it'll minus 1 if you use surprise battle. So that's the trade-off for having burn and frostbite applied to enemies within the area of effect where you throw them. I use them for both mob hunting and PvP. And now, for my passive in my offensive skills, offensive set of spells or skills, is the forbidden component, which will allow damage you deal increase by 20%, but you will receive damage by 15%. Law of equivalent and exchange, very alchemic like. And no room for error. If you have less than 50%, all your healing ability become 10% more active. Despite being offensive, most of the spells or abilities the alchemist had will allow you will allow for healing, except for maybe oh, I forgot to say. Oh god, I forgot to tell you about the distortion seal. My god, that was a mistake. So distortion seal creates a distortion seal selected area. Allies within seal gain haste while enemies receive slowdown and take 1.61 magic. That's depends on your ability power, by the way. The damage cannot be dodged. Very ideal for catching invisible foes. So this is my shards. Release flame. Enemies within the abilities area effect receive burn for 6 seconds. This can only occur once every 5 seconds on every enemy. Very useful despite its description. And drawback. Complete standstill. Enemies receive root. Now this is very important. You receive root for 2 seconds when they are within range of the ability. Each enemy cannot receive the effect more than once every 5 seconds. Still though, having them root to where they are is very useful for both mob hunting and PvP. You will want to disable your opponent as much as you like, and with distortion seal you can pretty much disable one party if you position and cast it right. Energy focus allies to inflict 20% more damage within the range of the ability. When these if your allies step on that, they will have, as the description say here, their damage will be increased, but that the drawback is you'll be rooted in, well, not exactly rooted, you have to stay within the range of the distortion seal in order to enjoy its benefits. So when there is PvP, when you're on the move, it's better to use it offensively to disable your enemies rather than using it as a buff for your allies. But again, it's all about positioning and uh, the situation depending. And so where was I? Oh yeah, forbidden component and no room for error. Despite the offensive arsenal that I have assembled, most of it is still about healing, so having no room for error. If you have less than 50% health, or inhibit become 10% more effective, can be very game changing. You heal with 10% more, 50% below health. And finally, the arsonist. When using burn, you apply the igniting to the enemy fights, and this effect doesn't stack. Your auto attacks have 15% chance of applying burn for 5 seconds. Now, this is one of the really, really good passive ability of the alchemist, as the description tells you. When you enemies or mobs get burned, there is a chance there's a chance of them get feared by the burning, and you get a free stun. Very useful, very very useful. And now for my support abilities. I'll just first talk about the passive first. No room for error, no brainer there. This is mandatory. And arsonist. There's also a bit of burning in my full support as part of, well, support. So I choose the arsonist passive ability. And lastly, the careful handling increases the amount of health restored by abilities 20% when healing allies. Since you'll be fully supporting your allies, you will need this. My first is potion making, this time for healing purposes. Potion making degree decrease the ability cooldown time by 3 seconds, can be a game changer, so I prefer cooldown. Vigor charge, okay, it's same as before. I prefer to move fast, very fast. But again, this is just my personal and humble opinion. It's it's what I prefer, and I'm sure you can come up with a combination of your own that's much more potent than mine. And never too many potions. This will allow you to deploy 4 potion instead of 3. A stark contrast from surprise battle, which sacrifice 1 bottle. But here, with never too many potions, you can create 4. But now, transmutation circle. Expert inscriber, cooldown of course. Sign of life and death, ability to restore 10% more health, and inflicts 20% more damage if you have 50% health. Not recommended, if not recommended to have deliberately have your health 50%. So don't do that. Sign of fear, applies fear to all enemies for 2 seconds. More or less, you probably already know this by now, so I'm not gonna explain further. That would be just rude and an insult to you. Of course, Elixir Life, same as before, toward immortality, fast reflexes for escape or chase, and strengthen. For the support role, I use strengthen to heal all my allies within 5 meters for a certain number of health every 3 seconds. When in fighting both mobs or PvP, the like, this will know that increase your option of healing your allies. Very valuable. And healing elixir. This I won't go without healing elixir when in full support spells or abilities. Salutary draft applies rejuvenation to the target. I chose that rather than the other one, which is applied restorative concoction, which applies defense. Now, my priority is to restore their health. Defense is good, but that won't regenerate their health. Fifth element, when applied to an enemy, ability causes a certain number of magic damage and applies saturation. This is good too, by the way, but it's not actually very recommended to use it on an enemy. Just use it on your ally. I chose the fifth element. Is much better choice than, let's say, resuscitation. Removes all controlling effects from the target. In PvP, well, it might be work on mobs, but PvP there almost everyone has a crowd control spells or ability, be it slow, be it fear and stuff. If you apply this one, the resuscitation, the heal, it will certainly remove the controlling effects, but another enemy will just use his or her crowd control on your ally again, and you have a very cooldown. So I would not use this in a very fast-paced battle. But again, this is just what I prefer. You can use conclude your own combination for it. And lastly, the accelerated regeneration. When the ability is used on an ally, you also restore your health by 30% of the amount you given to them when used on an enemy. You also restore your health by 50% of the damage dealt. Now this is a very good situational enhancement. I prefer this than the detoxification because again I rather increase the health of my ally and myself at the same time. Although you can use this to blast your enemies as well, I would rather much prefer to use it on my ally. And so that is it for my 2025 alchemist build, which is actually not much change. So I hope this will help you, my fellow alchemists out there, and maybe a counter to if you fight an alchemist to any damager class out there. Oh, I, I gotta give you some tips by the way. As an alchemist, one of your top predators is like Shadow. So the distortion actually reveals Shadow when they go invisible. Now the trick is to anticipate when they are close or something. Though I leave that to you. Uh, uh, do it by instinct. Uh, Shadow is a few seconds before they decloak. So again, I'll leave that to you how to cast it. And now the shadow is caught and damaged. And now you can blast him. Okay, that's enough for me. See you all next time.